Hi, everybody. I'm Tom. Welcome back to another Epidose of this crazy carnivore journey. And today I've got my pal Marge here to explain what she did, how she did it, and the difference that it made in her life. So why don't you tell us where this journey starts, Marge?
All right. Hello, everybody, and thank you, Tom, for having me here. Um, well, it isn't easy. The journey has been very long. I am 51 years old, and it all started, I guess, probably when I was about 13 years old. You know, when you start wanting to look pretty and skinny and what everybody says you're supposed to look like. And I started dieting and doing different things that I thought was healthy, and I just did that for many years. I did lead into several eating disorders, which I didn't know at the time that's what they were,
Mm,
but I carried on for many years doing the same thing. Ran into what I thought, were healthy foods, eating the standard American diet, being vegan without knowing it, um, because I was born Cuban, and we do eat a lot of rice and beans and grains and stuff, and that's the healthy thing we're supposed to eat. And then we're told that meat is bad for you. And even though I always had like this intuition to want to eat meat, I stopped eating meat because it was bad for you. You know, all these horror stories and stuff. But I've always been like such a meat eater, and I always found that when I eat meat, I feel very calm. But I did what, any person thinks they should do as far as dieting and stuff like that. And I went on for many years, and I started acquiring a lot of health issues.
mm,
Especially my issues were mainly like more in the brain, you know, um, fogginess, not being able to concentrate, not being able to read anything, a little bit of paranoia, I would say. And then I did go to doctors, and I was put on antidepressants and stuff, and I was okay for a little bit, but I always reverted back to like unstable, just very unstable. And I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know what to do.
mm.
And I saw a lot of it in my family. You know, my whole family was very obese and hypertensive, diabetes, high blood pressure. I mean, every disease, name it, we had it. And I knew that if I didn't make a change or something, I would probably end up there also. But um, but I kept eating what was healthy, fruits and vegetables, no meat, no butter, no fats, and I just felt horrible all the time, horrible, no energy, fatigue. I believe now I had an issue, a thyroid issue back then, just because of the
Hmm.
low calories, and not enough nutrients in the body, and and I would overwork out, I would run, I would do cardio, just, because I didn't want to be unhealthy. And in reality, I was becoming more unhealthy by the day. So
Mm.
several years later, continuing doing the healthy thing, my body starts falling apart, my hair starts falling out. I actually had a bilateral hip replacement 3 years ago because my bones were not, where they should be.
Yeah, that's a
So
big deal. So you had both hips replaced and you were only, what, 48? Something like that?
47, 3 years
40.
ago. I'm 51 now, so 3 years ago. Yeah, yeah. I
Wow.
mean, I put it off for a little bit, but I was bedridden. I couldn't walk.
Mm.
I couldn't stand. I couldn't, sit. I couldn't drive. I couldn't. And where I worked, I worked in hospitals, doing birth certificates and stuff. And I walked a lot into the patients' rooms. I couldn't stand for more than 10 minutes, and it became a problem. So that's when I
Wow.
decided, okay, I just have to go ahead and do this. I thought with proper nutrition and exercise and stretching and doing the right things that I could, do the right thing, but it didn't work. So I ended up having the bilateral hip replacement. And I think it's okay that I took that route because I do feel like the bionic woman now. So hopefully, that'll last me a long time. But I believe that all the stuff that I was eating, not knowing, thinking that I was healthy, just contributed to really bad health in the long run. So I had to face that one day, you know.
Right. Yeah. So then, when did you get onto your new way of eating?
Well, I had a few, several events that were more mental instability, where I
Mhm.
would make very radical decisions, and it didn't make any sense to anybody. It didn't make sense to me, but when you're in that moment,
Mhm.
you just do what you do, and it's what's in your brain, and you
Right.
just kind of make really bad decisions. Very harmful decisions, very just not good.
Right.
And I'm sorry.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so yeah, so it got really bad to the point where I decided to seek professional help. So I started looking for doctors, and they just kept telling me, some of them they diagnosed me as a quack. The other ones were, they couldn't come up with a diagnosis or anything, but I knew that my body was attacking me. I knew that my brain was attacking me. And until I just came to terms with the fact that, okay, maybe I just have to live with this for the rest of my life. I'm broken. I'm different. I'm all these things, people say that I am. So I just tried to do the best that I could with what I had. So I did turn to drinking, and I smoked, and it just gave me a fix for the moment. I guess the drinking I was self-medicating, looking for something to feel better about.
Sure.
And yeah, but it got really bad where I started to have, like suicidal ideations. So then I knew that something was really wrong. So I did go see another professional. They did put me on antidepressants again. And it kind of did help for a little bit, but I knew that that wasn't the right way. I knew that my body was not supposed to be on these medications. Now they had me on hypertension medications. They had me on antidepressants. They had me on anti-anxieties. I mean, the list just went on, and I didn't want to just live like that.
Right.
And it wasn't until 2015 that my mom, she was my mom, every disease known to man happened to my mom. She was
Mhm.
hypertensive, then she was diabetic, then she had renal failure, she had, transplant, and then boom, cancer, until she passed. And I always say the system failed her because my mom followed the system to the T. She never got better.
Mm.
She didn't have a chance. So, and I knew that there had to be something else. Because if you follow the advice of all the doctors and you don't get better, there has to be something else. And I started searching because now I'm at the end of my rope. I'm feeling horrible. I don't want to be this way. And just to go back a little bit, when I went to see my doctor after 2 years of being on antidepressants, I said, I don't want to be on this anymore. And she said, you have to live like this for the rest of your life.
Wow.
And yeah, so I kind of looked at her and I said, well, you're not making me better. This is not what I want,
Right.
and um, and I remember this was, I think, January 10th of 2014 or something like that. And I just turned around and I looked at her and I said, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna get better. So I started researching. I started looking into everything. I ran into keto. I had done the Atkins diet many, many years ago, but
Mhm.
I wasn't, it didn't work for me for whatever reason. Maybe I was too young. I wasn't, I didn't have enough information. And so it didn't work for me. And I was totally unbalanced. I was still doing, smoking and drinking, and it wasn't nice. So, but this time, for some reason, my brain was in a different place. It was a little more mature. I started gathering a lot of information, and the more I searched, the more it made sense to me. And I do remember as a child, and I think this is where it all started making sense to me. Like I said, I'm Cuban. So we do café con leche. I don't know if you're aware of any Cuban food or coffee with milk.
Mhm.
So we give this to our kids. We have this ever since we're little. We have like bottles of coffee, milk, and sugar. And this is what it is. So remembering, looking back, my whole family would always say, oh my God, she doesn't stay still. Oh my God, she doesn't stop talking. Oh my God, what's wrong with you? Like, stop talking. Like, what's wrong with you? And then when I
Mm-hmm.
would try to go to sleep, I had restless leg syndrome. I had, just my thoughts wouldn't stop, racing thoughts. I couldn't fall asleep till like 4 or 5 in the morning. And then the next day I couldn't function. So now when I look back, I put it all together, and I knew something in my system was just off. So I
Mm-hmm.
continued to search and I continued to search and I started experimenting little by little. And I started to feel better. I stopped smoking. I stopped drinking. I've always exercised, but maybe not in the right way. And I started putting everything together. I started taking out sugars and carbs. And the more I did that, at first I felt horrible. And I said, oh God, no, I'm really going to die, right? But I didn't. So I just
Mm-hmm.
pushed through. And it started to get better. My brain just started firing up. I started feeling stronger. I was just, word searching and just things were just coming to me like in a different way. And I was just full of energy. But it wasn't like the fire energy you get from sugar. It was just a more calm, different energy that I could sustain throughout the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
And I started incorporating other things. I did supplements for a little bit, things that I know that are not in our foods.
Mm-hmm.
And little by little, I just started getting my sleep in order, being in with a circadian rhythm and just doing different things. And every time I added another little thing, my body just became healthier and healthier. And I started lifting and I lift more. And even with my bilateral hip replacement, people can't believe I have that. I was
Yeah.
out of surgery, practically exercising, and they looked at me like I was crazy. And they were like, I had a doctor that said, oh, I cured my asthma, my sinuses, my allergies.
Mm.
It was an array of things that I had that doctors kept telling me, you just have to live with it. We have to give you another pill for that.
Right.
And I refused to accept that. So the last time I saw my pulmonologist, I love him to death. He said to me, you are my success story, because that doesn't happen. So that,
And by success story, it means I don't have to give you drugs anymore.
yeah, I cured myself, I cured
Yeah.
myself. I haven't seen him in over 7 years now. So, and I got off all my medication. My primary physician, actually, I had to fire him. He was very upset with me. Kind of threw all the documents, because I wanted to get these, certain tests done. And he kept saying, where are you getting this information from? And just help me,
Yeah.
And he says, oh, I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to write a diagnosis, which makes no sense because you can't get anything properly done if you don't have a diagnosis or something. And so I just went and I hired a holistic doctor and I did my own testing, which then I found out I have the MHTFR gene.
Yeah.
And which I don't detoxify my body properly, which makes a lot of sense. When I put certain things into my body, it takes a very long time for my liver to get rid of. So it's like double the trouble with me when I do certain things.
You know what's interesting about that gene mutation is that most people have it. So more people have it than don't. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
I heard.
yeah. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
little methylation pathway thing. So that's
Correct. But
fascinating.
as long as I pulsate my vitamins, because I can't take anything, even if it's good for me, I can't take them for more than 3 or 4 days. So I pulsate, my omega, my fish oil, my B12s, which is the ones that I have a very hard time, keeping in my body. And when my B1 goes down or my B12, my brain just doesn't function the same. I can feel it. But I
Interesting.
also know when I have it, when it's too much in the body. So I have to, slow down and I have to pulsate. Anything that I do, I have to pulsate. Yeah. You know what's interesting? I heard one of your videos the other day, and you were talking about coconut oil, and I thought coconut oil was like this thing, like this healthy thing. When I ran into keto and I kept doing the coconut oil, but I was getting anxious and I was like paranoid, and I'm going, what the heck is wrong with me? And then I hear you talking about it, and I said, oh my God, that's what was happening to me.
Yeah, it's weird because I not only realized at some point, I liked like the MCT oil and stuff like that. It was fun to take that and some coffee. But then
Yes.
you find out these weird foods trigger you, and then I have conversations with people like you, and I find out because I
Yes.
ate some peanut butter one day, and all of a sudden I had all this anxiety, and I was like,
Oh my God.
did a
Yeah.
couple spoonfuls of peanut butter just launch me into orbit or something? And sure enough,
Yeah.
that seemed to be the case.
And you know what's funny? People, when I talk about this to certain people, they look at me like, you're so dramatic. You're so over exaggerated. And I'm like, oh my God, this is real. Like, it just takes a
Yeah,
little bit to trigger you. It's unbelievable. And like I've said before, a lot of people live, this way, and they don't know it. They don't know that because they have hypertension or because they have migraines or because, all these things that we have, it's being triggered by certain things that we eat. And they're
hmm,
just like, well, no, it's just that I'm getting old. Oh, no, it's just that, that's life. No, it's not. No, it's not. I think everything has a reason because our bodies, it's a machine. And it's just like a car. I always give that analogy. And it's funny because I hear it everywhere I go. And I'm like, oh my God, they stole that from me. And it's like, your body's a machine. You can't give diesel in a gas car. You have to give the proper nutrients. If
that's
not,
right.
you will not function. Your brain won't function, your kidneys won't function, your heart won't function. You have to give it the proper nutrients in order for that car to take you from A to B. And I always
Yeah.
use that. So
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of misery is just passed off as aging, and it's
yes,
completely unnecessary.
absolutely.
You meet people who are like, well, I'm just getting old. It's happened to my parents, and
Yes.
then our diet couldn't possibly be the reason why my neck hurts every day, or my hips went out, or
Mm-hmm.
I've got to take all these drugs. I've got hypertension, diabetes, Alzheimer's creeping on. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so far from people's awareness that it's the food they're eating every day that's driving these things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it saddens me, what mostly saddens me is to have all this knowledge and know because you have applied it to yourself and I mean, we're like walking miracles because we have cured certain things in our bodies. And when you try to explain that to other people, it's so hard for them to get. And sometimes I think to myself, it's so easy if you can just try to understand it just for a little bit, and those things can change. But it's very hard to break people from those habits. It's very hard.
Well,
You know?
that's why you sharing your story is so important, right? If they could
Yeah.
hear it from one more person, if they could relate to one more story, they might give it a week or a month or 3 months.
Okay.
And a lot of people, once they adapt to a better diet, a low carb diet, a carnivore diet, or something like that, keto diet for 3 months or so, usually they see enough change that even if things aren't perfect, they know that there's something substantial here.
Something.
And maybe
Right.
they got to start again because they fall off the wagon. They go to a wedding and eat some cake, or
Yeah.
something like that, and then they start again, like, okay, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do a little
Right.
different. I'm going to watch
Well,
another video.
yeah, well, you know what, Tom? It's funny that we've talked about that because sometimes I forget or we forget we're human, and we forget, and I want to be superhuman or think that I can be normal. So I had some chips on the Super Bowl, and
Yeah.
I was for that. I was literally in pain. My stomach was distended out to here. I was just like, oh my God, why did I do that for? And well, I say normal, but really that's not normal. Normal is what what the body's supposed to do. So when you put something abnormal in the body is going to react because it's so perfect. And that's really
Yeah.
what we should be.
And I mean, I think we think of things like chips being innocuous. If you don't eat too many of them, it's okay. But they're made from a corn that nature didn't create, and they're
Correct.
fried in an oil that's not natural. Human beings weren't eating seed oils or vegetable oils until very recently. And then, of course, it's just processed food. And on some level, I think everybody agrees that we shouldn't be eating processed food, or we should eat very little of it. But it's
Right.
not even just necessarily that it's processed. The ingredients are so unnatural. That type
Correct.
of corn, well, I mean, corn has been crossbred, and now, you know,
Right.
the genes have been manipulated in a laboratory until it's an alien food. And every
Yeah.
time you squeeze the oil out of a seed or a vegetable, it begins to oxidize immediately. And there was no way that that's sort of nutrients were available in nature as we evolved, you know?
Right. When I've heard that cotton seed oil and certain oils, rapeseed oil or whatever, they don't even have oil. The process is so, so tremendous that they have to do just to get that to make oil that it's not even natural. It's so not for our bodies at all.
Yeah, and in the
And I,
case of, like you
yeah,
mentioned, rapeseed, that
uh-huh,
that it's so noxious when they mechanically crush these seeds and get the oil out. It
correct.
stinks and it tastes bad. So then they have to
Wow,
deodorize it just so people can eat it. And that's a
correct.
crop that was just invented so that they could grow something in Canada where they have a really short growing season. They needed to find a plant that would grow in that harsh climate so that
Wow.
Canada could produce something and put it on the world market. This is not like a natural food that human beings had been eating for a million years.
Well, then we have the natural foods that do their process on its own, that we don't need anything to be processed. The nuts and the seeds, pistachios and cashews and stuff like that. I mean, they're so good and you tend to eat more than you're supposed to, but it's because the seed is actually trying to grow. So you eat it, it takes your minerals, you kind of poop it out or whatever. This is the process that it's supposed to happen. And then people wonder why when you overeat certain nuts and stuff, you are just feeling miserable because the
Mm,
nuts are doing what it's supposed to do. That's the
hmm.
process, but we just take everything and kind of change it, and we want to make everything different, just like the fruits. I can't have fruits. They just trigger my brain. They make me paranoid. My brain just starts racing again, and it's just not normal. It's not
Yeah,
normal.
it's good that you mentioned that because fruits have been painted as being so friendly and healthy, and
Okay.
people don't expect to be triggered by them. You know, they don't expect the downstream consequences of ingesting them. So I think that's important to mention that, they can trigger people just like, well, I mean, the extreme cases of as a juice box, right? How many little kids you see running around with a juice box and it's just concentrated sugar,
Horrible.
concentrated plant chemicals. And then, even eating like a banana. Well, I got your banana picture that you'd posted that
Okay.
we're going to share. These things are available in sizes and quantities that were never available in nature. There's no way human beings were evolved to eat this stuff because it just wasn't available until now.
And it's funny because for many years I also thought that fruits were healthy, and because they were so healthy and they're so colorful and they're so pretty, I had to eat a certain amount, and I wanted to force myself to eat it just because I wanted to get healthy stuff in my body, but it
Mm,
just wasn't working for me. The more I did that, my brain just, I mean, it was telling me, my body was telling me, and just by intuition, I didn't know how to listen to my body at the moment, but now I listen to my body. Trust me. Even though I messed up on the Super Bowl, but I try not
yeah.
to do that all the time.
It's
Yeah.
almost like, making a mistake like that because I've done that too. I've gone to a Super Bowl party and the only thing
Mm,
there was like some taco fixings and maybe some cheese and some almonds, and the rest of it was completely off the menu. And then I was like, well, I haven't had any nuts in a while. I'll have a few almonds. And then you're like, wow, that doesn't really sit well. you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, and and let's say if you're the type of person that your symptoms come out like on your skin or something like that, but when you have a mental issue, when it comes out mentally, it's a lot. It's so hard because people are looking at you like you can show that you have something on your skin, and they're
Sure.
like, oh, okay, fix it, whatever. You don't look crazy, right? But
Right.
when it affects you mentally and you become literally paranoid and you start to have that doom and gloom feeling when nothing makes sense anymore, when you start thinking death is better than living, that's a problem. That's
Right.
a big problem. And I think that a lot of people go through that and then they go to the doctors or they talk to someone and they're like, oh, you're just depressed. You're just depressed. No, there's something going on that's bigger. And I truly believe because I am a living proof. I am living proof of that. When you remove certain things, your body starts to function again, and it is very scary to be at that point where you think dying is better than living. That's
Right.
how much your brain is attacking you, and that's a
Right.
that's a pretty scary place to be. Very scary.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. I want people to see and know that when you feel like that, everybody's like about the anxiety now. Yeah, we have so many people with anxiety and depression because we're all eating these foods that are causing this. But if you just open up a little bit, you can make those feelings go away and feel normal. And that's my message, you know, to everybody out there with anxiety and depression. You
That's
know,
a very important message. You know, I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm depressed because my brain chemistry's off and I was born this way.
I
Or
thought
I
that for
have
me.
anxiety because I was born this way. I have suicidal ideation because my brain is wired wrong or something like that.
Right.
And it's an alien concept that it could be your food that's triggering it. I don't know if you've
Absolutely.
seen the videos with Dr. Chris Palmer, but he put a patient that had severe schizophrenia on basically an Atkins diet just to help the guy lose weight, because a lot of the psychiatric medications cause people to lose weight and it kind of
Mhm.
destroys their metabolism and shortens their life. And he's like, well, you could,
Right.
go on the Atkins diet and lose some weight. And the guy's schizophrenia got better. And then
Yeah,
my friend
absolutely.
Emily, she was bipolar. She was bedridden with
I
MS and
know her. I've
bipolar.
seen the videos. Yeah, awesome,
And
awesome story. Yeah, kudos to her. She inspired me actually when I ran into you and Emily. You know, I said, "Oh my God, I want to do that. I want to put, you know, I want people to know that it can get better, no matter how bad it seems, because it does get better." And I will never take no for an answer. I don't care if you're wearing a lab coat. I don't care what your degree says, because I feel that a lot of other people that have researched, because they're in so much trouble, we actually know a little bit more than doctors, you know. And it's funny because I say I worked in hospitals, and when they see my body composition change, and when they see me walking down the halls, they're telling me, "What are you on?" You know, these
right,
were the same doctors that were once telling me, "You're a quack. Where did you get this quackery from?" And that's very inspirational, you know.
right,
That's
right.
that's that's a
Yeah,
good feeling.
when people see you change and then you go, well, what did you do? And you're like, well, I ate a bunch of steak and I went to the gym and I feel awesome. And they're like, well, that
When
can't be true.
Yeah, when I first started the keto diet, you know, they would kind of look at me like, "What are you doing eating all that fat, you know, and the butter?" I just literally, I was like, either I die or I survive from this. So one of the two is gonna happen, right?
Yeah,
Because I'm already dead, right? So I just started pounding down the butter and the pig lard, and I mean just everything, and whatever. I do a lot of eggs. For some reason, eggs do very well in my body.
mm,
And people were just looking at me like I'm crazy. Now, meanwhile, all these people have so many issues that I'm going, how much worse can it get? You
right.
know, like they were all overweight. They were all, you know, I can look at someone and know if they're type 2 diabetes. You know, they're just, you know, heart burners, you know. And then 2 or 3 years into it, now I'm getting a different reaction. You know, everybody's like, okay, what's going on? What's the secret? What are you taking? And I'm like, guys, it's all what you put in your food. You know, I always say there's two ways to make a choice. You pick something up and you say yes or no. Is it good for my body or not? It's that simple. It really is that simple.
Yeah, you have to sit down and do that experiment. You go, what food makes me feel the best? Which one gets rid of my depression and my anxiety and
Mhm.
my lack of energy? Which one makes me want to go to the gym? And for me, it's just eating meat. It's that simple. And
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, it's like, hey, if I die, you could come to my funeral and jump up on my coffin and give a speech about how stupid I was, but I'm living better now than I ever was. I don't need medication, and
Exactly.
I'm not going to my doctor. I haven't been sick in over 2 years. No colds, no flu, no sinus infections, no
Me
ear
either.
infections. None of that
Me
stuff that I used to battle every day. It's all gone. And I go to
either.
the gym 5, 6 days a week with a smile on my face. I love being there. I wish I had more time to work out.
Yes, yes. Well, you don't want to overdo it either, because you
That's
know you need
true.
your body, give your body a little time to repair. So you break
That's
down,
true.
then you repair. You know, we tend, because we feel so good, you tend to want to do more, but more isn't better. You know, like with everything. You know, now
Yeah.
I do get away with a little bit of not the starchy carbs so much, but I do get away a little bit with vegetables, just because I feel that most women are estrogen dominant. You know, we need something for the liver. I guess in my brain, it works for me. I wish that I could do I do carnivore, and I go back and forth. Um, But just because I feel that, and I'm premenopausal because of my age and stuff, so I am dealing with those hormonal issues, but I'm pretty much in balance because I don't have hot flashes. I don't have, those things that women really suffer. And they, of course, they're all with the adrenal glands. And I take care of my adrenal glands with, the high vitamin C's and the salt and the water, and just to make sure that they're healthy, so that when my ovaries don't work anymore, I don't have to do that. But I mean, I don't know. Does that make any sense to you? Have you heard of that? Where maybe we need to do some of that, for estrogen dominance, or you haven't heard?
It seems like the longer that people are just on, like, let's say a carnivore diet, the more that stuff just tends to take care of itself. But if people, like, like you said, if it works for you, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with it as long as it works, right? It's more like just being open-minded that, hey, this vegetable that doesn't seem like it could possibly do any harm. In fact, it only does good, might be a problem, right? But if you're not having a problem, then eat those vegetables. I know last night I stopped and I got a lettuce wrapped burger last night. I actually had two of them, and I ate a hamburger wrapped in lettuce. I don't notice any negative side effect. I don't think lettuce is particularly nutritious, but it doesn't bother me, and I'm not really eating it because I love lettuce or anything. It's just it's an easy way to get rid of the bun.
Yeah.
And
What
so,
happens? Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, if eating some vegetables here and there works for you, or you think it's helping with something, there's totally just do it.
Yeah, I mean, I looked into the oxalates things, and I do I have floaters in my eyes and stuff, so
Hmm.
I thinking maybe it had something to do with that. And I do
Possibly.
like have some little like lumps of calcifications like on my leg if I touch them, and I'm
Uh-huh.
thinking, oh my God, I think that's what it is. So I started doing the duck fat because I heard you say that with the vitamin K2, and I think I have issues with calcium in my legs,
Mm.
obviously. But I do like to do a little bit. The other thing that I ran into was when I did strict carnivore for about 6 months, the first time that I did strict carnivore, my homocysteine levels went up to an 11.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking it might have been something with the B12 in my liver and, some kind of function in that system. So I said, I added a little more vegetables, and my homocysteine levels went back to normal. I don't know if it was
Yeah.
coincidence. I don't know, but
Well,
that
and
did.
sometimes those levels will come up, and we just happen to measure them when they're high. You
They're
know,
high.
we get that all the time, like with guys, as we're talking about, testosterone levels. And
Right.
my testosterone will swing like 300 points back and forth, but I have no sign of there being any sort of problem with it. And some of that's activity, some of that's food, some of that, I think, I know when they tested ketogenic athletes, I think they were cyclists, and they had long been adapted. They'd been fat adapted for at least a year, and they're on a ketogenic diet, and a year after they're fat adapted, they're still seeing changes on the genetic level, on the epigenetic level. So their
Yeah.
genes are actually altering biological processes a year out. So we
Wow.
could see all kinds of levels moving around, and we
Right.
don't really know what that means. And I like
Right.
looking at data and lab work and blood tests. I love that stuff, but in the end, we don't really know what it
We
means.
really know. Well, it's funny that you say that because I have a addictive personality, with all this stuff. So I can get addicted to anything, even counting ketones. So I'll count my
Yeah, me
ketones, and then
too.
I'm like, oh my God, they're not high enough, but I'm peeing purple, and then my sugar's up. Why isn't it? And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna stop. I'm just
Right.
gonna feel good, get up, and I say we have to do what like the cave people used to do. They didn't have monitors, or they didn't count their food. They
No.
just ate when they were hungry, and they went and they walked, they ran, they had babies, whatever it is that we're supposed to do. And I said, I'm just going to keep it as simple as possible, and that's what I try to do now. Every now and then, if I don't feel right, I'll take my pressure, and thank God everything. I'm telling you, Tom, they had me on 3 different blood pressure medications. I take 0. My
Mm.
blood pressure is 121/79. It's like perfect. I mean, unless I'm running, or it's supposed to go up when you're
Right.
scared, or you're nervous, or you're being attacked, or you're driving in traffic, or whatever. But
Hmm.
I try not to do those to test myself as much anymore. As long as I feel okay, then I think I'm okay. So
Yeah, no, and if you test your glucose after you work out, it can go up.
Be high, correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, yep.
exactly.
What is it? Gluconeogenesis. Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
thought it was supposed to be the opposite, so I did test a couple of times, and it would shoot up to like 120. I'm going, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong. But then I
Right.
learned that once you exercise, you are gonna get a little. And I don't have to have, like a sugar bump or anything like right before workout, or pre-workout or anything. Sometimes what I do have a fat bump with a little bit of salt just
Mm,
to make sure that I sustain myself throughout the whole workout. And I do a lot of heavy lifting, so
yeah.
and it works pretty well for me. But I don't do the sugar because you get the sugar high for a minute, but then the aftermath is worse, and I just can't deal with it. I mean, when you think people around you are trying to kill you, and they're I mean, the simplest thing, like I would get so paranoid that I'd be on the phone or I'd text someone, and if the person didn't answer me within 5 minutes, I thought they were mad at me. That's how bad my brain was.
Yeah,
It
that's
was,
rough.
it's horrible. It's horrible. Yeah. So I just started putting all those things together, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna treat my body like a machine, and that's what I do. That's what I do, and it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah,
It
that's the
works.
thing. If people take the time to figure out what foods work for them and what don't, I mean, I don't
Mm-hmm.
really care if, somebody wants to be vegan and that really long term that makes them happy and healthy, then,
Yeah.
go for it. But I suspect that we just evolved to eat meat, and meat should be the primary component of our diet. And then when it comes to plants, it's kind of an individual thing of like how much an individual can tolerate or perhaps benefit from eating some sort of plant-based food. That's a very individualistic thing. So
Oh,
you got to just figure it out.
I tried to do vegan, and I think I quit like the second day. I was like, oh my God, like this is not for me. And you know what's funny? When a few years ago, when I would go to the dentist and stuff. I'm very freaky about my teeth. I had big fangs, like really big fangs,
Hmm.
but I wanted to make them perfectly straight. And I regret taking them off because I was like a carnivore. I had nice little fangs, and I took them off. I
Wow.
shaved them down, and I'm like, oh my God, I took away what I am.
Um,
But so that's another sign that I was a complete carnivore. I mean, I
yeah.
cannot live without my meat. I can't. So.
Well, you want to go through some of your pictures? You sent me lots of nice pictures. Should we share those?
Sure.
And you can talk about them. Let's see here. All right. Started with a classic before and after here.
Oh goodness, yeah. I think that, well, no, I know that picture I was at my lowest. I was severe inflamed, depressed. I was on 3 different hypertension medications. I was on antidepressants. And it was actually my son's graduation. And I don't remember much. I mean, I knew I was there, but I was just going through the motions. It was so bad. Yeah.
And then the picture of you in your sporty workout outfit there.
Yeah, I made a decision a couple of months after, and it probably took me about a year and a half to get that way. But I still wasn't doing full keto or anything. I was just doing the standard, lean chicken and brown rice. Which,
Mm,
by the way, when I eat rice, I get itchy all over. I can't even
mm.
sleep. It's horrible. But it got my weight down, but I still wasn't feeling optimal. So that's when I start. That's when I started researching keto.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So this is a recent picture, right?
Yes, that's me now. That was last week. Um, that's keto carnivore, and I feel amazing. Like I said, I just turned 51, and it's a great feeling.
I
It's a
love the
great
home
feeling.
gym too, by the way.
Oh,
I've got a
thanks.
I've got a weight pile in my garage too, and
Yeah,
that's really what got me back into lifting was just having some weights at home and doing the classics.
yeah, yeah.
There
Hmm.
you are posing, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Instagram
I'm in
girl.
I'm in the room. I work out, and I just feel amazing. And sometimes I feel like people are just watching me, and I'm like, God, if everybody could just feel this way. I
Yeah,
want everyone to feel this way. Yeah.
I hear you. Doing a little kettlebell work.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just showing off my legs there.
Yeah, you got
They're
some
good.
great quads.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, well, I have to keep them very healthy with the hip replacements. So I take care of the hip area a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the most likely things to kill anybody when we get older is you trip and
Correct.
fall and break a hip and you wind up in the hospital, they fix your hip and then you never really recover, right? And it seems like people, when they cut out sugar, they don't get infections and stuff as easy and they recover from surgeries better. So
Yeah,
it's really important to keep your hips strong so you can stay
yeah.
mobile.
You know what's funny? Nobody puts it together where your bones have everything to do with your teeth. I don't even get cavities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We call that the canary in the coal mine. People shouldn't
Mhm.
be getting cavities all the time. I know when I was a kid, everybody would get cavities, right? And it
Yeah.
wasn't like it was a secret that sugar gave you cavities,
Right.
right? And
Yep.
some of the dentists would actually buy candy back from kids to prove the point.
Yeah.
And then, you think, well, sugar's rotting in my teeth. Is the rest of my body equipped to handle a bunch of
Right.
sugar?
But you know what it really is? It's not the sugar in the teeth, Tom. It's the sugar depletes the minerals from your body. So your bones start decaying.
Yeah, a lot of these even, I still drink coffee, but I know that coffee or caffeine and stuff
Hmm.
like that, one, they make you urinate more because they're diuretics, and then you
Yeah.
lose more electrolytes that way, but they also block the absorption of the
Right.
electrolytes. So
I know I have to work on my coffee too, but I don't know. I don't know why I like coffee. And that's probably about one of the most unhealthy things, if you want to call it unhealthy, that I still do. Yeah.
yeah, we seem to get away with it. We know it's not really good for us, but we enjoy it. I know I'm even content with good quality decaffeinated coffee. That's fine with me.
Me too.
I
Me
just
too.
love the flavor. You get used to that
Hmm.
bitterness of
Yeah.
lots of posing. You're the master of taking the pictures in the
Oh
mirror.
my God. That's the picture of the Super Bowl. That was the day after. My stomach I felt like I was 6 months pregnant. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do anything. I mean, it was just, that's what I get when I do carbs. That's what I get.
And we'll show the app. This is when the bloating
Yeah.
went away.
5 days after. It took about 5 days for all that gluten and everything that was in that chemicals to get out of my body. Yes.
So this was just from eating corn chips on Super Bowl Sunday.
And I didn't even have any, maybe about 10 chips.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we've all heard about gluten intolerance. And I was at the store and I was looking at like pest control stuff, and I noticed they had this like pet safe rat poison. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
what's that? It's corn gluten.
Oh
So
my goodness. I believe it.
they
I
they
believe
they make high gluten corn
it.
products, just they leave it out and it kills rats. So you think,
Yeah.
well, maybe we shouldn't be eating that either.
Yeah. Well, you know how they say in small portions, small, it's not going to do anything. I said, I don't want anything in my body, you know?
There we go, back to, just for comparison, that's this
Uh,
Super Bowl chip incident right
oh
there.
my God. I mean, and I get that effect with any chips or rice, just about anything that's not, very low, like vegetables, very little, like I said, very little vegetables. And as long as I eat meat and high fat, my body's is okay.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's interesting because I follow this argument. I don't know if you've heard much about it, but a lot of people argue what's more dangerous, the refined carbohydrates or the seed oils. And there's some very good arguments on both sides. I think it's almost impossible to tell which one has done more damage to mankind.
Yeah, it's very sad, is what it is. Very sad.
So is this a T-bone?
Oh, that's a T-bone, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to eat the whole thing, but I like to portion myself. I don't do well eating large portions, but
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, it was so good. It was perfect.
Yeah, in this world of OMAD, people eat one meal a day or fasting or
Yeah.
whatever, and a lot of people find out that they can't eat a huge amount of food at one time.
No, I can't.
They've got
I
to
can't
spread
do
it
that.
out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
talking to a fellow recently. He was really struggling with, and he wanted to try carnivore because he was having psychological issues. He had a history of overeating and stuff like that. And we get that a lot when we're talking to people. They're trying everything at once. They're going to start going back to the gym. They're gonna intermittent
Yeah.
fast. They're gonna, and you're like,
Impossible. Mm-hmm.
whoa, wait
Yeah.
a second. Just try and eat meat.
Yeah.
When you're
Well,
hungry, eat it.
well,
Eat
I did
your
have an
full.
experiment with that.
Uh-huh.
When I saw that keto was working for me, and I started experimenting with fasting. So I
Mm,
started doing 12, then 8, 16, then 18, and then I got courageous and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna do 2 days, 3 days." Let me tell you, for a woman that has a history of eating disorder or any type of adrenal dysfunction or anything like that, it is not. I mean, I'm telling you, do not do it because it's going to trigger an eating disorder and it's just going to mess you up. It's going to put you right back to the beginning. I tried
mm,
it a couple of times until I figured out that I could not do long fast. I can probably get away with like 12 hours or 16 hours, the most, but that's
mm,
all I can do. I cannot do long fast because my body thinks it's starving and I black out. And it's like a
mm,
savage when you don't feed them forever. And I eat
mm.
everything in sight. And it's not a good feeling. You have no control. No control.
That's a good point you made. I mean, I experimented with fasting in the past, and it's a powerful tool.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right. It's an easy way for people to get derailed.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. I
Because
just eat.
it is a powerful feeling when you're not eating. It is a powerful feeling. But for most women, we have so many hormonal issues and adrenal issues and history of dieting that it's not a good thing to just run into that like that. It just doesn't work as well for men. It works better for men for some reason.
Yeah, I fasted up to, I think, 12 days one time, 10,
Wow.
12 days. And I kind of just did it because I was curious what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm,
And,
mm-hmm.
it's powerful. Like you can use it to tweak your hormone levels. You can use it to cut fat and all kinds of stuff. Your mind can be really clear and stuff like that. But I think in general for most people it's probably best just to avoid all that and just get
Yes.
used to eating a diet that makes you feel good. And maybe the results take a little longer if you're eating all the time, but they're probably more permanent because plenty of
Yes.
people will fast down and then the weight gradually comes back because their body just wants to replace the fat that it used to store because
Absolutely.
it's like a survival mechanism. Whereas
Even
if
your mind thinks you're starving, and it's going to do anything it can to help you live. And I think that's just a mechanism that we have. And when it
Yep.
kicks in, you have no control over it. No control. It will take over.
Well, let's talk about your banana picture here because this is one of my favorites.
Wow, yeah. So I put that on Facebook because like I said, I hear so many people talking about, oh, you should eat, vegetables and fruits and, as much as you can because it has so much nutrients. So I wanted to make a point to everybody that was telling me that they were so healthy that fruits are not what they used to be. We changed them. We made
Right.
them, we made them bigger. We made them, all these things. And really, to get the potassium that we need in a daily dose and bananas, you would probably have to eat like 40 bananas because it really doesn't have, the daily dose of potassium that supposedly people use for potassium. But we have engineered them to be something that they were not. They're not.
Yeah, the picture on the left there, you see a banana cut into a piece is a prehistoric type banana.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly seed inside. It's very small compared to like a modern, like a Chiquita banana that you buy at the store.
Yes.
It's not as sweet. And of course, those seeds in there are inedible. Whereas when you buy a modern banana, like you'd see at the supermarket, it's much
Mm-hmm.
sweeter. The seeds are tiny. They're basically edible now.
Yes.
And we
Exactly.
don't, yeah. So, and it's nothing like nature produces. It's nothing like what we evolved to eat. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the
Yeah. Well,
same thing if we look up carrots and stuff like that. It's the same story.
they're supposed to have, that many seeds because they're supposed to grow. So, we had to change it in order for it to be edible. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So here's you posing,
Yeah,
smiling at the camera.
yeah. Proud of my muscles. I'm 51, Tom. And I got muscles, and that's a good feeling.
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
really good feeling. Yeah.
I'm not
Mhm.
much younger than you, and I like it too. It's like I
Yeah.
can't believe I go to the gym and I lift, and I'm just like the
Mhm.
muscles keep growing. I just do some
They
push-ups and
do.
the muscles grow. It's amazing.
They do. Mhm.
I think it's good. You show it off, and you show people, look how much you can change
You
just by
can do
changing
it.
your diet. And then the whole thing about working out and in really enjoying it. I think a lot of people never enjoyed the exercise because their diet was wrong. And I think diet's got to be 80,
Yeah.
90% of the game.
Absolutely. And I tell people all the time because they're like, oh my God, I want to start, I want to start. And they don't realize that there's a connection, physically and mentally. If you're not giving your body the proper nutrients, you will not have the strength to do what you need to do, So it goes hand on hand for sure.
You're doing some hip thrusters right there.
Yeah, yeah, those are good. Those are really nice.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a
I,
good
I
picture.
enjoy every minute of my workouts, and every day, I just look forward to doing it because it just makes you feel good. I can probably go 3 days without working out, and on the fourth day, I'm like, okay, I got to do something because my body needs it. So,
Yeah, a little calf shot.
oh, yeah, those were hard to develop.
Yeah, I've tried to take. I got calves. I my calves are pretty big, and I noticed that, like, it's impossible to take a good picture of your own calf.
Well, actually, that picture was by mistake. I was laying in bed, and when I happened to look over, and I saw it, and I said,
Ah,
"Oh my God, what is this?" So I just took a picture.
there you go. That's what every girl wants these days. They
Well,
want to have the perfect rump for IG.
you know why I took that picture, Tom? Because I have always been like a very flat butt person. And I
Mm,
said, you know what, I'm gonna change this. And without surgery, without and I did. It's taken me about 5 or 6 months and I'm still working on it, but you
mm-hmm.
can grow a body part, if you want to. You can.
That and with two artificial hips.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. You're gonna make a lot of girls jealous with that one.
No, I want to inspire them. I want to inspire them.
And this is how you did it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm using very little weights there. Usually, I use like
Sure.
the big barbell and stuff. So that was just a little bit.
Yeah, so you got your back on the bench and your feet on the floor. You actually got your feet on a little step, right?
Yeah, just to go a little deeper. But
Uh-huh.
I mean, I have the camera in my hand, so it's a little hard.
Sure.
But usually, if I want to pull a lot of weight, I'll go to the other gym that I have outside, and then my boyfriend will put the bigger weights on me, and I can
Ah.
throw a little bit more. So
Yeah, you're kind of the camera ninja.
yeah, yeah. Really, it's hard.
And this one, woo, little steamy here,
Yeah,
showing
yeah.
it off.
Showing the abs, showing the abs.
Very nice.
Hmm.
That's inspiring. That's gonna light a fire under a lot of people, especially you get middle age and you think, well, I'm just gonna
Right.
turn into my parents now. But you don't
No,
have
no,
to.
it's possible. It's
And here we
possible.
are at the beach, apparently, roasting away in the sun.
Yeah. Hmm. That picture, I didn't even know they were taking pictures of me, and they shot a bunch of pictures at the beach.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, now it preserved it for everybody to enjoy. And then, so this is one of your before pictures, right?
Yeah, that was before. Also very depressed, very inflamed, and I was smiling that day. And I remember we were actually at a Joe Osteen concert or one of those things, and I remember I wanted to feel right, and I was so depressed, and I was smiling because I was with my family. I was with my brother, my sisters,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm feeling horrible. I was
Mm-hmm.
feeling horrible. Yeah.
That's smiling on the outside and hurting on the inside.
Hurting on the inside.
A
Yes.
little different here.
Hmm.
Yeah, nice guns, by the way.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
and here we got another booty comparison.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was actually before a couple of years before I started doing the thrusting, actually.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what did you do to just for this progress here before the hip thrusters?
Squats. I was doing squats, but then I learned that I was quad dominant and I wasn't firing my hips. So I
Ah,
added, yeah, so I added a little bit of the thrusting, which helped. And so it worked. But
eh,
I originally started with the squatting and the deadlifts, squatting and deadlifts.
yeah, squats and deadlifts are kind of like the pillars right there. You
Yeah,
get
but
that.
if you don't fire the hips, your glutes won't grow. Your legs will grow, but your glutes won't grow. So that's where I'm at now.
Yeah. Yeah, I always tell people, if you don't even have to do a lot of weight or maybe not any weight, especially with a squat, just doing body weight squats, it
Hmm.
can really be transformative. But if they call them the classic compound movement. So if you do
Hmm.
squats and deadlifts and even without a lot of weight,
Absolutely.
you're
You
gonna
know,
change the
sometimes
entire.
I don't feel like doing the weights, and my body's just a little, I'm older, and my body kind of reminds me sometimes. So I'll just take a couple of bands, and
Mhm,
I'll perform the same movement as if I was using weights, but I just do it with bands, and that helps. That
mhm.
helps.
Yeah, just a little resistance training from a band is a big deal.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's the kind of thing that'll keep us alive longer, you know? It's
Yeah.
not just for aesthetics. It really is about being mobile and being able to balance. And, if you do trip on something, you can catch yourself and not hit the ground and break your
Absolutely.
arms and legs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. I
So now
mean,
we got,
I feel so strong and fit that I really do forget my age sometimes. And I was out in the patio the other day and I was doing cartwheels, you know?
really?
Yeah, I was doing cartwheels. I've always been very flexible. And I said, wow, I haven't done a cartwheel in so many years. I mean, it wasn't the best cartwheel in the world, but I did it, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
that was,
you talk about, I'm 49 and I've been trying to hunt these wild boar out near, not too far from where I live. And we've been planting these cameras to see what time they move through there. My buddy shimmied up
wow.
a tree and left the camera way up in the tree, and then I had to go back and get it. He's out of town. And I was like, oh, I'll go up there. And then I got down, I was like, I wonder how many 49-year-old guys are climbing trees.
Exactly.
Probably not very
Exactly.
many.
Yeah, I find myself doing things like that, and then I kind of catch myself like, oh my God, I'm 51. I have, fake hips. Let me slow down. So I kind of have to, hold back a little bit just in
Mhm.
case, just in case.
Yep. There's another comparison shot.
Yeah, I mean, when I started looking at these pictures, I couldn't believe the change. I mean, and then the one on the right here, I actually, when I posted that, I said, why didn't anybody tell me I looked so inflamed? Like nobody told me.
Yeah, I think people don't perceive it. I think they don't understand what's going on. I mean, it's so
Wow.
common for people just to put on weight. It's like, so people put on weight, what is that? Is it just fat accumulation? Is it inflammation? I think for the most part, it's just not, it's beyond people's understanding.
Yeah. Or probably it's normal. I guess a lot of people will look at it like, oh, you look very healthy now. You know? I don't know. I mean, I've heard that before.
Yeah, there's a good comparison too.
Yeah.
Roughly how far apart in time are these two photos?
Um, I think about a year and a half, 2 years. Because basically the older pictures that I'm comparing to were probably taken around the same time. And then when I started seeing big changes, I just started putting them side by side. So
Hmm.
I would say about a year and a half, 2 years. Yeah.
And we're back to this, I think we just went through all your
That,
pictures.
wow. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
It seems really different to see it that way. That was
Well,
fun.
I think you're going to inspire a lot of people, and I
I
think you've done a great job of delivering a message of how you can just change what you eat, and then
Yes.
a lot of people are going to start working out just because they feel like it. you know?
They should. They should. But you know what, Tom? They have to get their nutrition right, because if you don't get the nutrition, you won't have the strength, and you won't have the desire. And a lot of people will tend to blame themselves for being lazy or not. What's wrong with me? You know, like, oh, you're such a lazy and this, and they'll say things, and it's really not about that. It's because your body doesn't have the proper tools and the proper nutrition to get that strength of to do it. Once you have
Absolutely.
that, once you build that, your body will tell you, get up, walk, do something. You
Yeah.
will find yourself doing things without having to force yourself. And that's
Right.
the worst feeling in the world, is to force yourself to do something you don't want to do.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I agree 100%, man. This is like when you're a kid and you had to do PE at school or something, and you hated it and was
Yeah.
you dreaded it, you felt bad. That's because you had the wrong diet.
The wrong diet.
And
Exactly.
even when you get middle aged or whatever, or older, even older than us, you get on the right diet, man, you're gonna feel like doing stuff. And so if you can start doing
Absolutely.
stuff and not hurt yourself in the beginning, and
Absolutely.
that development comes back. Your body starts repairing itself, your muscles get stronger, your bones get denser, your mind gets clearer, your mood improves, your
Yeah.
digestion improves. Did you have digestive issues before?
I did, but I had digestive issues since, I guess, since I was born, because I remember my mom stating the fact that she would have to go, since we lived in Cuba, she would have to go to other cities to find a milk that would not, that would go with my body.
Hmm.
So I can't do milk. I can't do cheeses. I can't do anything like that. So yeah, I'm very sensitive to a lot of products, and I do have digestive issues. I haven't had them. It took me over 2 years to fix it,
Hmm.
um, but it is a lot better now. But like I said, I'm very sensitive. If I do introduce something that's not supposed to be there, my body will tell me. As long as I give it the proper nutrients and the proper foods, then it's okay. It won't be angry at me, but it'll let me know.
I think when people eat the typical diet, especially this bizarre concept of eating a balanced diet. I think
Yeah,
we eat all these foods we think are healthy, like grains, vegetables, fruits, and a little bit of meat or whatever. And there's so many things going wrong. We can't tell which foods make us sick. We can't
correct.
hear exactly what the signal is from our bodies because there's so much noise. And when you
Exactly.
when you when you dial the diet back and you just eat meat for a while, and then you try a little something else, then you
Hmm.
can tell whether that thing negatively affects you or not.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. Hmm.
well, this has been a great talk, and you're always welcome back. We can always do another Epidose with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Tom. And I am so grateful that I ran into you, and I consider you a friend now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's nice. We get to chat now and then. It took you a little while to work up the courage to
It
come on
did.
here and talk about this on video, and I understand that. It took me a while just to make my first video, and I didn't even want to appear on camera. If you
Yeah.
look at my old videos, I'm not on camera. I'm just talking. I made little slides and a lot of text and pictures.
Oh,
I
wow.
talked about it, and then eventually, when the longer I was on Carnivore, the less shy I was, and I realized everybody's giving me positive feedback. I hardly ever get any criticism, and when I
Yeah.
do, it's usually somebody who doesn't make any sense, anyways.
Well,
So
yeah, I think especially when you're going to talk about very intimate things, very, very personal things,
yeah,
you don't like, should I say this? Should I say that? Like, how are people going to look at me now, now that it's out there? But you know what? Once it's out there, it's good. You go through whatever we go through, and it has to be for a reason. Let this be the reason, right?
right. Yeah, no, more and more I notice, like, I'm doing videos with people and they're talking about bad breath, body odor, embarrassing situations, stomach distress, bowel disorders, and it's hard for people to be brave enough to talk about those things, especially the biological functions.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
there's so many people out there that are negatively affected by that stuff every day. And if they don't share that message, then people won't know that those conditions that they're hiding, that they're secretly suffering with, can be helped just by changing what you eat. And that this crazy sounding idea of basing your nutrition on eating meat
Mhm.
actually works for people. It actually changes people's lives, you know, and
Absolutely.
then we got to kind of undo those weird messages of like eating a balanced diet and eating grains and nuts. I think people don't realize how toxic things like grains and nuts can be to an individual.
Yeah.
They sound so healthy, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, the only thing we can say is one good at a time.
That's right.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to ask everybody to leave us a comment on this video. I know I'll when you if you will leave a message for Marge, I'll let her know, or she can check the comments and maybe she'll respond. Maybe she won't. I try and respond to everybody. I try and have some back and forth with people, and
I would love to respond. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and maybe you'll come back and do another video. Hopefully, we can get people to subscribe to the channel.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Tom.
Maybe you'll launch your own channel someday. Be a YouTuber
Maybe.
yourself. Yeah. Help more people.
Maybe.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, we managed to pull this off.
Thank you so much, Tom.
You're way on the East Coast. I'm way on the West Coast of the U.S. But
Right. That's right.
pretty soon, people all around the world will see this. You'd be surprised how many people in India will watch this. It blows my mind sometimes. People in other countries are watching it. It's like, wow.
Well,
So,
they're very good at the videos. So you blew my mind away when I saw the videos too. So thanks for inspiring me to come out here and and say these things.
well, you're very welcome, and I'm very appreciative that you took the time and you ponied up and decided you were going to be brave enough. So I want to thank you for showing up and sending photos and having that long conversation with me about it.
Okay.
It's good stuff.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
everybody. Thank you.